Welcome to the Jewelry Resellers Podcast, your go-to source for all things shiny, sparkly, and of course, profitable. I'm your host, Desiree, and I'll be your guide on this dazzling journey through the world of reselling jewelry. We'll be diving deep into the art and science of reselling, uncovering valuable tips, insider secrets, and sharing stories from successful jewelry resellers. We'll explore market trends, industry news, and even discuss how to find those hidden gems just waiting to be discovered in thrift stores, estate sales, and beyond. So if you're dreaming of turning your hobby into a hustle, or if you're a seasoned pro looking to stay at the top of your jewelry reselling game, join me each week for insights, stories, and more on the Jewelry Resellers Podcast. All right, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Jewelry Resellers Podcast. I am your jewelry reselling bestie, Desiree, and today we're going to talk about something that I think when you're a beginner, this can be something that could be overwhelming because when you're just starting as a jewelry reseller, you don't exactly know what you should and should not be looking for, because if you don't have a lot of experience, all jewelry can look the same to you. So today we're going to talk about the jewelry that I believe or I recommend you do not buy. And the reason why I say that is because these jewelry pieces that I'm going to talk about today just don't have a very high resale value. Now, if you're looking to buy jewelry just for your own personal use, or maybe you want to give it as a gift, or maybe you just like it for whatever reason, that's totally fine. And that's not really the perspective that I'm coming from today. Today, I am going to focus on helping you learn to buy jewelry pieces that you can actually make money on if you decide to resell them. Okay, so sometimes knowing what to buy is more about knowing what not to buy. And so that is going to be the focus of today's podcast. So before we get started on today's topic, I always like to remind you to join our newsletter family, because when you do, I'm going to send you a list of the 20 best-selling vintage jewelry brands that I believe all resellers should know about. Okay, and I'm going to give you that list for free. As a matter of fact, when you sign up for the newsletter, you can download it instantly. And if you do want to do that, all you have to do is head on over to the website. That's jewelryresellerspodcast.com. Again, that's jewelryresellerspodcast.com. I will also have a link for you in the YouTube description if you are listening to this on YouTube, or I will have a link for you in the show notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and focus on the types of jewelry you don't want to buy as a jewelry reseller. All right, because we want to take into consideration the resale value of every piece of jewelry that we source when we are building our jewelry reselling business. Okay, now sometimes you will come across people selling all kinds of new and packaged jewelry, and I just want to start off by saying you want to be really, really careful with that, because a lot of times those are pieces that are mass produced, or maybe they could be knockoffs of more higher end jewelry pieces. So be careful if you see someone, especially I see this a lot on Facebook Marketplace, sometimes Craigslist, sometimes OfferUp, where people will just be selling all this brand new jewelry still in the wrapper, and then they'll throw out brand names, like Tiffany. I don't know. That's the only one I can think of right now. But just be careful with those, okay? Because usually if they're saying they're high-end brands and they're selling them for really cheap, then definitely that's a red flag of something you want to stay away from, okay? So when you're considering the resale value of jewelry, certain brands may not retain or increase in value as well as other brands. So typically, things that can affect resale value include brand recognition, the name, exclusivity, exactly where or for whom these pieces were made for. We also want to look at and think about the craftsmanship, how the pieces are made, the tools that are used to make these pieces, of course, the materials, and we also want to consider the initial price point that these jewelry pieces were first sold at. Okay, so think about all of those things when you are looking at jewelry pieces to resell. And a lot of this stuff probably will apply to more newer brands of jewelry. Some of these points I'm going to talk about today don't really apply to vintage or antique jewelry, although sometimes it can. But I know a lot of us are jewelry resellers and we sell pretty much whatever we can find. So we want to be knowledgeable even about the newer pieces of jewelry that we stumble across when we are outsourcing, or maybe somebody might contact us and say, hey, I've got a bunch of jewelry here. Would you like to take a look at it? And maybe they might be able to make you a deal or something like that. Okay, so here is a look at the types of jewelry or the brands that you probably want to stay away from as it relates to reselling. Okay, so remember, I'm talking about and I'm only focused on the resale value. If these are jewelry brands or pieces that you want to buy for your own personal enjoyment, that's totally different. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started because I do have a list here like I always do. So I wrote a list of the types of brands or specific, considerations that just don't hold the value retention or even the customer satisfaction as it relates to specific brands of jewelry. And I want to say, maybe it's not nice of me to say, but I do want to say that these are probably the worst brands of jewelry that you can pick up for reselling. Okay, I'll just put it out there. I'm going to be very direct as it concerns this because I don't want you to make any mistakes, buying this stuff and then thinking that you're going to be able to flip it for a high profit. All right, so the first type of jewelry we want to stay away from and not buy for reselling is what I call fast fashion jewelry brands. Okay, now these brands typically produce a lot of trendy, low-cost pieces that are not really meant to last a long time. And you see this type of jewelry in stores like H&M, Forever 21, maybe online, like on sites like Fashion Nova, Shein. Okay, so be very careful buying jewelry from these types of fast jewelry places because these actually don't even have a resale value. Like you might buy a necklace for $10, you're lucky if you can resell that for $5. All right, so number 2, the type of jewelry or the brand of jewelry that you don't want to buy for reselling is discount retail jewelry. So jewelry sold in like those big box discount retail stores, like Walmart, sometimes Target, can often be of much lower quality, and it's designed to be affordable rather than long lasting. Now you see this a lot at Target. Target does some collabs sometimes. I know Target just did a collab with Kendra Scott, and the Kendra Scott Target brand jewelry pieces do not resell for as much or very well as just the regular Kendra Scott jewelry pieces. Okay, so a lot of times when these brands do collabs, the pieces are not made as well and they're not made with as good of materials either. So be careful with that because those pieces just do not resell very well, if at all. Okay. All right, so number 3 of the type of jewelry you don't want to buy for reselling is the jewelry from some of these direct sales or MLM brands. Jewelry brands that are sold through multi-level marketing, which is MLM, might not always provide the best quality for the price due to the business model and the reputation of the company. All right, so a very popular brand that a lot of us probably already know about is paparazzi jewelry. Now, paparazzi jewelry, I think everything is $5 or something like that. And I've had a lot of it throughout my jewelry reselling career because I do a lot of bulk buys, and a lot of paparazzi representatives will go out of business and then they just sell all of their inventory. All right, but the resale value for this type of jewelry is not very high. Again, a lot of people, myself included, avoid this type of jewelry as much as we can. So we're talking about brands like Paparazzi, I think Origami Owl. Some people say Stella and Dot. I have been able to sell some Stella and Dot, some of the more higher end pieces of that brand, but in general, it just does not resell very well. Okay, next up, the next type of jewelry that we don't want to buy for resale is the generic mall jewelry kiosk. When you're walking in the mall and those little kiosks, they've got jewelry out there and it's unbranded or it's a brand no one's ever heard of. That type of stuff you want to stay away from. Now, I'm not saying it's not pretty, and I'm not saying that it's not, it's not going to make a beautiful gift to somebody if that's what you wanted to buy. However, it's just not going to be something that you can resell at a very high price. All right, generic brands found in mall kiosks might not offer the best craftsmanship or material quality. They're more focused on volume and selling as much as they can at the highest price they can. And most people are not looking for that type of stuff. Part of reselling is having the things on hand that people are actually searching for, and nobody is searching for jewelry that's sold on at the kiosk in the mall. I don't know anybody that's actually searching for that online or anywhere else. I mean, yes, people might go to the mall and decide right then and there, oh, this is pretty, I'll pick it up, but nobody's really searching for that. Okay. All right, so number 5 of the type of jewelry we don't want to buy for reselling, we have to be careful with certain drop shipping brands. Now, I don't think a lot of us really are involved in the whole drop shipping thing, but sometimes people will try to source this way through drop shipping, and I don't know if people are aware that they're actually buying something from a vendor who is drop shipping. Brands that rely heavily on drop shipping often offer a wide range of products with inconsistent quality and origin. Okay, so be very, very careful. I don't know that a whole lot of us are really sourcing this way, but I just wanted to throw it out there in case someone is, because it is very hit or miss with what you can potentially get as it relates to the quality of the jewelry. All right, point number 6, again, the type of jewelry we don't want to buy, and that is brands with frequent complaints about metal allergies. Again, this doesn't happen a whole lot, but sometimes people will ask you what the jewelry is made of. Is it 14 karat gold? Is it silver? Is it stainless steel? Whatever, because there are people who do have allergies to this. And some brands might use metals that commonly cause allergic reactions, such as nickel. And so a lot of people who are shopping, or consumers, or people who are buying, they want to steer clear of this because they have a sensitivity for whatever kind of metal. All right, so learn about the different types of metals of the jewelry that you plan to resource or resell, I guess resource as well. And make sure that you are not buying like cheap metals, that can cause a problem. Again, I don't think a lot of us are doing this, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned it because it is something to consider. All right, the other things that we want to be careful about is brands with poor craftsmanship. Again, I think if we are being careful with what we're sourcing, then we will be able to know, okay, I'm going to stay away from this particular brand because, the jewelry never lasts longer than 1 or 2 wearings. So knowing that you are finding a type of jewelry that is well made will go a long way as it relates to you being able to resell that piece quickly. Okay, because you can sell unbranded jewelry pieces, especially if they're well made or if they have a really good reputation. Things like Juliana jewelry. I mean, obviously, we're not talking about, Juliana jewelry here, but I'm just saying that sometimes unbranded jewelry has a really huge following, and that's just one example. Okay, so we also want to think about, like I said, because I wrote this on my list, brands with no clear branding or identity. I know I just threw out Juliana jewelry because it's never marked. But in general, jewelry that lacks distinctive branding or design can often be a struggle to sell and also hold its value or appeal to buyers. Because a lot of no-name jewelry, again, nobody's really looking for that. Sometimes buyers are looking for, like they'll say, I need a red beaded necklace for a particular outfit, so they'll search that. But that doesn't happen a lot, and you have much better luck with branded jewelry. Okay, so if you have a choice to buy jewelry that is marked versus unmarked, I always say buy the marked jewelry because that will help you sell it. But again, it has to be something that is high quality, something that is going to last, and something that people are looking for. Now, last point on my list is be careful of overpriced costume jewelry brands. Some brands sell costume jewelry at a price point that doesn't even match the material or the design or the artistic value. Making those types of pieces a very poor choice for long-term investment or for reselling. Sometimes I've seen this with like Chico's jewelry and stuff like that. Now, I love Chico's jewelry, but sometimes those pieces are ridiculously expensive and it's not even, real gold, or it's not even real gemstones or whatever. So some of these jewelry brands, while they do have a long, I guess, high following, or, they're very popular, just make sure that it makes sense for you as it relates to your return and what you can make on reselling that piece, because sometimes you may not necessarily make much money if you have to buy, spend so much to get the piece in the first place. Okay, so that's just something to think about as well. Now, I did think about a few brands of jewelry that I would stay away from, and I want to share that list with you. Now, this list isn't all of the brands that I say don't buy for reselling, and there may be exceptions, to this list here and there, but just in general, I do not pick these particular brands for reselling jewelry. And this isn't to say that I don't have a few of these pieces hanging out in my inventory somewhere, because I'm sure I do. But I do not purposely pick up these particular brands anymore. Okay? So number 1 is Charming Charlie. Remember that store? It was like the accessory store where you could buy jewelry, handbags, scarves, accessories, whatever, in pretty much every color under the rainbow. But the Charming Charlie jewelry does not hold a high resale value. So if you see it when you're outsourcing, unless it is something spectacular, I would leave that behind. All right, brand number 2 I recommend you don't pick up. That's Claire's jewelry. That Claire's store in the mall, and they've got all kinds of accessories in there. Claire's is not a brand that holds a high resale value if you can resell it at all. That's definitely a brand I would stay away from for reselling. Number 3 is Time and True. That is a Walmart brand. They have a lot of jewelry. I'm sure if you've been in a Walmart, you've seen the jewelry section. Time and True jewelry does not resell for anything. So I would stay away from that. Again, if you want to buy it for personal use, that's fine, but it's not going to bring you a whole lot of money for reselling. Now, I already talked about these brands: Paparazzi, Origami Owl, and Stella and Dot. I think those are MLM brands, and again, not very good for reselling. I mean, unless somebody gives it all to you, gives it to you for free, and you try to, sell it just to get something out of it. But I would not source those particular brands or try to resell them. The next one I have is A New Day from Target. Okay, A New Day. Yes, they make jewelry, and no, I would not list it for reselling. Again, if somebody gave it to me for free, maybe I would, but I probably would not spend the time listing that. I just wouldn't. Another brand is Universal Thread. That is also a Target brand, and they do have some jewelry pieces. Again, I would not pick those up for reselling. Also, Wild Fable. That is also a Target brand. I think they make jewelry, sunglasses, accessories like belts and things like that. Again, not a whole lot of resale value, so leave it if you can. And this one is kind of mixed. And this brand is Avon. And what I wrote in my notes, I wrote vintage Avon, yes. Newer Avon, no. Now, not all vintage Avon jewelry, sells for, a lot. But more people are looking for vintage Avon jewelry than they are newer Avon jewelry pieces. So if you do come across some vintage Avon jewelry, I would definitely look it up and research it, because more people are looking for that than they are, versus the newer pieces. Okay? All right, so these are some things to think about as it relates to the jewelry you don't want to buy for reselling. I know that there's probably more out there that I just either couldn't think about, or maybe stuff that I just don't know about. But for the most part, anything that is mass produced, or anything that is just really cheaply made, or places where it's really easily accessible in places like Walmart, Target, and whatever, for the most part, those are not the jewelry that we're looking for to resell. Okay, so just leave that stuff behind. But like I said, hey, if you get some for free, great, it could work out for you. You just really have to know your stuff, and you really have to know, like I said, what people are looking for. So let me know your thoughts on this episode. Do you have any jewelry brands that you just will not buy for whatever reason? I'd love to know. You can leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. Well, I hope you enjoyed, and I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. I will check in with you again really soon.